Hello and welcome. My name is Leanne Maciel. I'm with Poets and Quants. Thanks to all of you watching out there for joining us today for our Online MBA event. Hope you have been enjoying it so far. And a very special thank you to our guests for this session, both alumni of two impressive programs and with some very interesting backgrounds that I'm looking forward to speaking with them about. And we're going to talk about their MBA journeys, both from the decision-making process to the experience itself, and then the impacts on their career. And we have Andres joining us. Hello, welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thanks for joining. And for those who are watching, if you do have any questions throughout the session, please do use the Q&A function, and I will try my very best to get to those questions as well. So I would love to get started by getting to know each of you just a little bit. So Kristen, let's start with you. I'd just like to know, what industry you're in, your current company, what you do there, and let's round that out with a fun fact about yourself.
Sure. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kristen Lazard. My background is mainly in corporate retail, in merchandising and merchandise planning and inventory management. Most recently, I've started my own business in retail wholesale and e-commerce consulting, which has been exciting and very interesting. And I can talk a little bit about that later on. Background and a fun fact about me is that I was on 2 episodes of a very popular reality TV show.
Oh, that is interesting. Well, thank you for being with us.
Absolutely.
Michael, how about yourself? Who you work for, what you do, and a fun fact.
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Murphy. I'm currently employed by the company formerly known as Facebook, now known as Meta. I'm a manager in the global risk operations sector there. Prior to joining Facebook, I spent about a year at Uber. And prior to that, I was in law enforcement in the city of Oakland for 7.5 years, focusing on gangs and gang intelligence there. A fun fact about myself is I'm a collector of sneakers, and I currently have about 300 pairs of sneakers all over my house that you can see if you were to walk around.
Wow. Okay. Well, maybe we'll get a view of that later. Andres, welcome. Give us a little bit about yourself and a fun fact.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having us. So my name is Andreas Zarilla. I currently work for Ford Motor Company in their marketing division. My title is Customer Experience Operations Manager. So what I do is I help dealerships in the South Texas area kind of improve their business with customer retention programs and basically kind of consult them on how to treat their customers better and improve revenues at the same time. Fun fact, my family's from South America, and I was the first one in my family to get an MBA.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, thank you as well for joining us. So we're here to talk about your online MBA experience. So what I want to talk about first is what led you to pursue an MBA. If you think back, did you consider a full-time program, a part-time program, and what ultimately led you to decide on an MBA, an online MBA? Michael, we'll start with you on this one.
Okay, I had a pretty good job in the public sector as a police officer, great pay and benefits. And I had already received a master's degree in criminal justice management. However, when I looked at leaders throughout my department and other departments, what their degrees were in, none of them had their master's degrees in criminal justice. They were all in MBA or leadership. So I talked with some people, and they advised me to go back to school and obtain another master's degree. I looked at some full-time programs too. At some point, I got started getting tired from the job. Looked at some full-time programs too. However, I had one young child, 2 years old, and I had a child on the way. So being able, foregoing, pay benefits for an extended period of time was not feasible for me. So, very quickly I decided that I was going to go the online or part-time route.
Gotcha. Andres, what about you? Tell us a little bit about your decision-making process when you were exploring MBA options.
Absolutely. So originally, I was actually going to go back to law school. And what made me choose to get an MBA instead was the value that the school that I picked provided. And an MBA would allow me to do a lot more things. And if I wanted to go back to law school, I could always go do that eventually, I guess. It's a lot of school, but the MBA would allow me to get promoted within my own company, allow me to learn from others. And it also really allowed me to kind of continue working full time and still go to school at the same time, which I would not have been able to do if I chose another program.
And Kristen.
Sure. So I was a very reluctant MBA student. I never thought I would apply. When I was first starting out in my career, senior leaders did not have their MBAs in the industry that I worked in. And so I never really thought that it was for me. As I started, kind of moving around and kind of feeling out different industries, I started seeing MBAs become more and more prevalent, and I became very interested in it. And I think, what ultimately led me to apply was the BU Questrom program that I'm in. Is an online program. It is, and it's a very, very affordable program. So because of those things, and because I live close to Boston and I could get to campus if I need to, and after meeting faculty, in kind of the admissions events that they had, I was sold. It was such a great program, so accessible. And, just being able to be online and not having to commute to a school when I already have, demanding work life was really the right choice for me. So I'm excited to see where it leads me.
Great, thank you. Would actually like to stick with you based on something you said there just around the cost. So when you were reluctant, you were thinking about it. How did you decide that an MBA was worth the investment?
Yeah, so the BU Questrom MBA is a very, very good value. The entire program, which runs about 2 years, cost about $24,000 US in total. So, it's a fraction of what you would pay for even 1 year in an MBA program. So that was definitely, a factor for me, because I knew that I could self-fund it and I would be okay. And so I think, and just knowing how strong the BU program is overall was just the impetus that got me to just fill out the application. So, and I think, once you just get started, and now that I'm actually almost at the end of my MBA journey, it's just, I just keep saying yes to the school. There's more and more that I do, and I get more and more involved. So it's been a really rewarding experience.
Great, great. And Michael, so similar question for you. You came from a law enforcement background. You already had a master's. How did you decide that the MBA was worth the investment?
Yeah, once I started talking to, as I mentioned earlier, started talking to leaders in my department and other connections I had to other police departments, I felt that the MBA was the right decision for me in terms of, hoping to promote to a higher level within the department. And then when I did my research and I saw, if I did decide to leave law enforcement at some point, what the ROI was, especially at Kelley, with the price that they were charging versus some of their competitors with similar rankings, it made me, at that point I knew, hey, I want to promote, or if I leave, I want to, be more in demand in other industries. That the MBA was very versatile, and I would be able to use that to get in at other department or other companies. So that's what made me make that decision.
Gotcha. And then what about you, Andres, in terms of determining the ROI or the worthwhile investment of the MBA?
Yeah, it's definitely something to consider because of the cost. So there are two reasons for me. One being personal, one being professional. I'll start with the professional. And professionally, SMU, just like almost every MBA program that there is, they publish kind of graduation statistics at the end of every year. They talk about graduation rate. They talk about what what customers, and I'm sorry, not customers, students are earning on average when they enter the program, what they are getting paid as they leave, what industries they're in. So I studied a lot of those and kind of decided kind of like, if I want to pay this much, where am I going to go and what's going to provide value? And on the personal level, SMU is located in Dallas, Texas, and Dallas, Texas is my hometown. That's where I grew up. And as a kid, it was always just my dream to get a degree from SMU. And I didn't get to do that for undergrad. So I knew that I did look around at other schools, but I was pretty dead set on SMU when I started looking for MBA programs. And I knew that my employer also being willing to help out with the cost was a big factor as well.
I can imagine that's certainly a very big help. And Kristen, since you are, recent, in the program, did the pandemic have an impact on your decision at all? And if so, how?
No. So the funny thing is that my application process and even my acceptance into BU all happened prior to the pandemic. So I did not know that we would be housebound. And I was very fortunate to be enrolled in an online MBA. It's interesting for BU because my class is the very first online MBA class for BU. So this is new for them. This is, we are kind of figuring out as we go, but it's a phenomenal program that we just keep, making iterative changes to make it better and better. So there was, because the rest of, BU was also needed to become online, the work that was being done for the online MBA was actually helping the rest of the university, which is great. But yeah, I was actually just very lucky to be enrolled in an online program at the start of the pandemic.
Right. Yeah. Good timing all around.
Yeah.
There. So Michael, you talked a little bit about your, switch in careers, and that you knew going into an MBA program that it would help to promote you, but also give you other options down the road. Was there a point where you said, okay, was it before or during that you said, okay, now I'd like to go and work for Meta, or can you kind of just talk us through that process of, this is what I've done my life so far, and where that pivot came to bring you to where you are now?
Yeah, so I had made the decision shortly after I applied for the MBA program that I was going to leave law enforcement, and push that.
Sorry.
To help me even make that decision. I actually, as soon as I notified my command staff that I was going to be leaving, a call came on the radio and around the building and got hurt, suffered a knee and a shoulder injury about a minute after I finished the conversation, and I had to retire based on that. So it was kind of the perfect timing in a harsh kind of way, but the timing happened that kind of forced me out of law enforcement and into looking to to other areas for employment, these that are sit at home for the next 50 years. So.
Got it. Wow. Well, hopefully you healed quickly and all is okay from that. But yeah, interesting timing. So let's get a little bit into the programs that you all chose. Some great from BU, Indiana, and SMU. The same question for each of you. And Andres, let's start with you. What was the key factor, maybe the top one or two things that led you to choose SMU College?
I would say, and I give the same answer to everyone because it's the truth and it's really how I felt about it. I picked it because I was going to get almost the exact same experience that I would have with an in-person program or a part-time in-person program that I would with the online program. And what I mean by that is I could talk about it for days, but basically there was really no difference in the program as far as content. The professors were the same, the classes were the same. It was just administered online. And I wanted to make sure that if I'm going to do an online program, that I don't want to cut myself short or miss out on any resources or events that I would if I was an in-person student. So that without a doubt was the number one choice for me, is the continuity of getting as much of the in-person experience that I would just through an online program.
Gotcha. Kristen, what about you? The top one or two factors that led you to be you?
Sure. So for me, it was actually the opposite. So the Questrom Online MBA was designed completely different from the traditional full-time MBA that Questrom has, or even the part-time in-person MBA. And so the cornerstone of the Questrom Online MBA is, an integrated curriculum. And basically what that means is that every semester we take one class, and that one class has many different professors from many different disciplines that come to teach us about an aspect based on their expertise of that class. So what I mean by that is, like, for example, the semester that I'm taking right now is all about monitoring, identifying, and assessing risk. And so we're learning about risk management from the perspective of someone that specializes in operations. We're learning about the financial, ways to quantify risks. And then we're even talking about brand risks, legal risks, all sorts of things. So already I think I've had 5 professors in this mod, which has been wonderful. And I think that it simulates real world experience. When I sit in a marketing meeting, I'm sitting with my marketing partners, but I'm also discussing sales and budgets and, and product and, all sorts of things. So I think that, having that integrated ability really just mimics real life.
Got it. And Michael, what about you?
Similar to Andres, I like that it was the same program online and in person. However, when I looked at all the programs I was going to apply to, only a handful of them had in-person aspects of it. And I believe that, doing the in-person aspect of it like Kelley had allowed us to form relationships and network that we probably would not have had the ability to do if it was fully online. So when it came down to it, that was the fact that Kelley at the time had 2 in-person 1-week programs as part of the experience. Made that decision for me to be able to actually go there on campus, feel part of the school, and meet people in person. That was the deciding factor for me.
Great. Okay. So why don't we stick with you, Michael, actually, because you kind of led us into our next question here. I'd love for you to share with the viewers a little bit about the learning experience. What were the classes like? How did you interact with your professors, with other students? Share a bit about that, if you would, Michael.
So all the classes were online, and they had, except from being the 1 week or 2 weeks in person, but they were online with live sessions. So, once a week I had to get on my computer, live and, see lecture like I was in class, working groups. They would, split us out into groups on Zoom for us to work on group projects, and everything we did, almost every class, we worked in teams or in groups to accomplish a specific goal. And so that's where the bulk of the learning was. However, at the beginning of the program and in the middle, we did have a 1 week in person where we got there and worked on a business project for a real company, and they would take some of our ideas and implement them. So that the ability to go in person and do that same thing, but have it have real world effects, was great. And then some of we eventually, we found out we lived near each other, or we were going to be traveling for work. Because it was online, it allowed us to meet in person outside of those 1 week programs, and actually discuss some class related stuff, in person. So those are the kind of the ways that we communicated live in person, through text messages, through group chats and meetings outside of our live sessions.
Great, thank you. And Andres, what about SMU Cox? What's the class experience like there?
I feel like I'm classmates with Michael because ours is almost identical. So we have one live session per week, and if you're taking 2 classes at once, it equates to 2, and it's delivered through Zoom, and it's just like a live classroom. You have the professor there doing a lecture. There's group projects that are involved. You break out into different breakout sessions to do group projects. And it's cool because it's very engaging, because it's not like it's a classroom where, like there's just one day where you want to sit at the front and be more engaged and answer questions. everyone is right there in front of everybody, and you're expected to participate every single week. And a lot of classes actually grade you on participation as well. And just like Michael's program, we also have 1 week during the program where we actually all meet in person. We called it an immersion. And we had the fortunate opportunity to be able to travel just before the pandemic hit, where we all got to go to London in the United Kingdom for, I think it was about 4 to 5 days. And we worked on a real life project, just like Michael said. And we got to present it to an actual company and provide some real world examples on how to solve a business problem and present it live and for it to actually be used. And I thought that was a really cool live experience to kind of do consulting there in a setting where it actually mattered and it wasn't just a case study. But the classroom setting, I mean, I would describe it as almost just like regular classroom that you would experience in high school or undergrad, and it's just delivered virtually. It's really the only difference.
Sure. And what about Andres, professors? Did you, even outside of the class work, what was the access to like them with access to them? Like, you know, if you had questions or wanted to discuss something, how did that work?
It was awesome. So it varies by professor and by course, of course, but the experience that I had was that so many of the professors wanted to make themselves available to you outside the classroom. During the first week of class, when they're going through the syllabus, they would say, here's my personal cell phone number. If you need something, call me, text me. I'm available outside the classroom. And I think that's kind of what made the MBA so much different than undergrad, is that you get to know the professors. It's smaller classrooms. Everyone's professional, everyone's working. So everyone kind of understands what you're going through. And the professors, like, they're all just extremely helpful, and they all want to check in with you. They want to see how you're doing. And it's not so much lecturing. They ask you to actually ask questions about your job experience to make it relevant to the class. And you end up learning from directly through your professor about your classmates and stuff that you can apply to your own job. So they did a really good job of being available in the classroom and out.
Great. And Kristen, some similarities, differences, tell us a little bit about the experience at BU.
Yeah, so I think somewhat similar, but at Questrom we have a specific weekly cadence that we kind of abide by, and that is, every week our content for the week is released, and so depending on what semester you're in, that day of the week changes, but the first part of the week is really digesting that content that has been released. And then we do have a live session once a week as well. For Questrom, because of the global nature of the program, we offer 2 live sessions. You have to pick which one that you want to join. There's a morning session and then there's an evening session based on Eastern time where I am. And at those live sessions, they're 2 hours long. They're also through Zoom. And they're very engaging. It's the fastest 2 hours of my life. It's, the professors usually come on, they immediately start asking for, people, questions. They'll cold call students. It's very participatory kind of class. You're not sitting at a screen and just staring at it. You're talking and you're engaging, and you're working with your other cohort mates and the professor. I think that we also have breakout groups. It's usually a very small, like task-oriented thing, like maybe there's a quick case that we have to read and provide a perspective on, or depending on what the topic is. Sometimes it's just a situation that we want to just talk amongst as a group. And those breakout sessions are, randomly put together. So it's a really great opportunity because our class size is fairly large. Sometimes we get to meet people that we've never met before per se. And in addition to the live session, there's also teams that, we are assigned every single semester, and it changes based on, which semester we're in. So, some semesters, it's a small team of 2 to 3 people. Some semesters there's teams of 5, and some semesters we actually had 2 types of teams, depending, on the needs. So, so that's another way to really get, engage. And And I've, had no problem, like every time if I've had a question, I've emailed professors directly. I've had, videos, office hours with them that are held on, again, on Zoom video. So there's really been no lack of ways to, interact with faculty.
Muted myself. Great, that's great to hear that. I'd like to, again, stick with you, Kristen. So your undergrad was in family studies from Cornell, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep. So as people are thinking about an MBA, especially those who do not have a business undergrad degree, the whole quantitative aspect of an MBA can be disconcerting. Can you talk a little bit about your experience? I know you had a number of years in the business world before that, but was that an apprehension of yours, and how did you manage through that?
Yeah, so for me specifically, I actually work in an industry that is mainly, quantitatively based. So I am, while I'm not familiar with hard finance, or wasn't familiar with that prior to starting my MBA, math doesn't scare me. So I think that, for me specifically, it was not a big of as a jump as it might be for others. There are teammates that I've been, cohort mates that I've worked with that, it is, some of the math can be challenging, but PU is really great at providing resources of either, self-guided, tutorials to take, or professors holding office hours just to be able to catch people up on, any calculus or things that, people might be fuzzy on and, or out of practice on. So, there's been a lot of different resources that, really help everyone kind of get on the same page as far as the quant, requirements.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Helpful. Andres, I'll go to you with this next question, because you said something when you were talking about the experience in terms of learning through your professors about your classmates. And I got my MBA years ago, and I very much remember learning just as much from my classmates as from my professors and the coursework. So I wonder, and each of you will get this question, was that an experience that you had in terms of learning from your classmates? And can you give an example of something you learned that stuck with you?
100%. So, and that's what's really cool about it, because in this environment, you are together with classmates that are doing the same thing that you are, except some of them may be in different industries. Like I know in our cohort, one guy was a veterinarian, zero business background. And just everyone was able to ask questions in a way where they brought fresh perspective. So one of my classmates was an engineer, and we did a case study. I believe it was on some kind of accident that had happened in the workplace, and they were kind of figuring out, like, from a PR perspective, from the leadership level, how do you handle this? And it was just kind of cool to hear, like, how the engineering guy would talk about, like, the technical pieces of it. And then you had someone that was in finance, we'll talk about finally the financial implications of it. Myself being in marketing, I kind of had like a different perspective on it. So by learning from others, you kind of open yourself up to seeing, okay, maybe marketing is not the only thing that exists in business, or maybe the finance guys have something, or the people in HR, and everyone has a different perspective. And the case studies are really cool because oftentimes in these classes, you're with classmates that are in big organizations. And it just so happened that some of the case studies we did were on Ford Motor Company, my employer. So they would kind of joke like, all right, let's bring the car guy in here. Let's ask him what he thinks about this. So, and it was cool because, I mean, I wasn't like teaching, I wasn't being the professor, but I was truly talking about things that I do at work and things that I had heard about, and they were kind of asking me questions. So it's really engaging, and that's kind of the cool part about it, is that you're not just there to learn, you're also there to share, which I think is really great.
Great. Great example. Michael, do you have an example, or was that your experience learning from your classmates?
Yes, everyone has a different background, and they bring something to the table. So you'll never know what your group's going to look like in any particular class, what the makeup is going to be. Some people, like Andre said, some people have marketing backgrounds, some have finance backgrounds. I was strong in operations. So there was a lot of times where people, where I'm just learning different things. I'm asking for help. A lot of the quant related stuff, people are volunteering to help me. But one thing that someone taught me as I was transitioning from law enforcement into the corporate world. And it was not related necessarily to school. It's kind of a life lesson. He taught me. We were at our second Kelley Connect week, and a bunch of us were out before our big welcome meeting. And we're going to go back to the hotel and change in the business attire. And he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, why are you going to go change? Is there anything that said we have to wear business attire?" I said, "No, but I think that's appropriate to to go there to position yourself." And he asked about my grades as I'm doing. I'm doing good. And he said, "Do you think there's anyone in this program smarter than you?" And I said, all around, no. Then why are you going to go change? Who do you have to impress, right? Be yourself. That's in the business world, don't change for anybody, just be yourself. And you're going to enjoy this program a lot more. And you're going to enjoy your career in life a lot more. And that was, that stuck with me. And I think, without that advice, I probably would not have enjoyed the program because I was able to open up a lot more. Being myself. I get to Facebook, and that's the reason why I think I was hired, because I was true to myself. So that advice that he pulled me aside and gave me, I think it stuck with me, and it's the reason why I'm being successful right now.
Great. Yes, that is excellent advice. And Kristen, what about you?
Sure. So we have a few different ways that we help each other. We also have a very diverse group, population of students. And, so my very first team, there was someone on my team who he's from Brazil, and he's an entomologist. He studies bugs for a living. And, so you really don't see that many people like that, right, in an MBA. But it was fascinating learning about what he does and why he does it and why he wanted an MBA. I think that, having so many different experiences, coming together is just helps for everybody to broaden their horizons and grow. We, at Questrom, we have my cohort has a very, very active WhatsApp group where we can call on each other for help, for career advice, for, business, entrepreneurship advice, whatever the case may be. It's really an open forum for anybody to post a question, a comment, or what have you. So there's that. Additionally, we have a platform that is required, I think, for most semesters, not all of them, but it's a platform that where we comment and post articles for each other. So that's something that we do on a weekly basis, and really helps us kind of engage and learn from each other based on others' expertise. And I think, the most salient example that I can bring forth is that we had a previous semester that was all about leadership. And, in that leadership module, there was a specific group that they called a quad that was really designed to help us, like almost as a career coach, and really help draw out our strengths as a leader. And that the quad group was instrumental in helping me kind of overcome some of my own fears about about my own inabilities, and really develop confidence. So if it wasn't for that group, I probably wouldn't have started my own business. So
Great.
It was very, very helpful.
Great. Let's shift a little bit and talk about work-life balance. So you're working, you're going to school, you have children, likely you had an infant, I think you said, you've got a social life, you've got friends, you've got family. How did you, I'm tired just thinking about it, just asking the question, how did you manage through that? Were there tools, or what advice would you have for those who are thinking about doing an online MBA, and how to manage their sanity from that perspective? Michael, what about you to start?
I think you got a plan. You imagine my first term in the program, I'm trying to, be on the surveillance at work while attending a live lecture on my phone, hiding in the back of my van, not be seen. So there was a lot of things. And then like a week after I started, my entire household caught hand, foot, mouth disease. So I'm constantly, cleaning up after everybody. I'm, fighting food, going grocery shopping while still trying to go to work, do school, and it just wore on me. So at that point, I had to sit down and figure out a plan. I got 2 calendars. One was for work, where I listed every day I had court, every day I had, whether we had a search warrant, something to do at work, that went on the calendar. All my live lectures, due dates, meetings with classmates, all went on the calendar. So I knew when I had to, read certain chapters, look at certain articles before a particular class or before a particular assignment. All those things went on calendars. And the night before, I would look at my entire calendar, both calendars, put it on my phone, and as well as everything I have to do at home. And I know, tomorrow, these are all things that I have to accomplish. And I just stuck with it every day, stuck with that calendar. Even to this day, I still do it. So I say, make a schedule that allows you, and build in time for your friends and family too. I would try to have a day every week where I didn't do anything related to school or work. So have a schedule, build in time for your own sanity, to remove yourself from both of those, from work and from school.
Great. Sounds like you had a very interesting experience, from surveillance to a class to Andres, what about you?
I think Michael nailed it with one word: calendar, because there was no way that I could balance work. And then at the time I was also doing business travel. So I was in airports multiple times a week, traveling in different hotels. And each day of the week, my background would be a different hotel during class. So it becomes something that you kind of manage. There are things that you will have to, I don't like to use the word sacrifice or give up. You just maybe kind of adjust for in order to make time to get your MBA. And to that point, the biggest thing you could do to support yourself is to have a support group, whether it's a spouse or family members or close friends and family. And then most of all, your classmates, because those, I would say that the relationships I have with my classmates were the strongest ones that kind of kept us motivated throughout the program, whether it's reminders about like, hey, don't forget, we have this project coming up due, or hey, make sure you get the homework done and submit it on time, or hey, there's office hours, or I'm going to go, do you want to come with me? And just things like that. It's just, if you have the right support system and if you get yourself organized, like Michael said, with a calendar or multiple calendars, you're set up for success. It is challenging, and there will be things that you have to set at least temporarily to the side. But the MBA, it's a 1 year, year and a half or 2 years, and it'll last the rest of your lifetime. So that temporary sacrifice is worth it.
Got it. So planning, calendar, support group. Kristen, what else?
Yeah, so some phenomenal suggestions already. I think, for me personally, when I started my first semester in the program was right as the pandemic was unfolding. So I have 2 young kids, and one of my oldest, my daughter, was in 3rd grade at the time. And so I had the added challenge of homeschooling in addition to, my full-time job and school and everything else. So it was a challenge. Yeah, it was. But I also subscribe to, having a calendar and putting everything on it. I think that Mike's suggestion of having, that one day where you don't do anything for school, just take one day off, is something that I wholeheartedly do, because you just can't do school every single day. And I think, I view the fact that maybe I can't, watch Netflix as much as my friends or things like that as something that it's just, I'm delaying it. I'm not pushing it out of my life forever. This is temporary, and it's important. And then, it is also really important to have a strong support system. So I couldn't have done any of this without the support of, my husband, who will, chip in and help out with the kids if I have to do schoolwork, or, I have to have a team meeting or what have you. So, really being able to be honest and communicate your needs, as to your family and friends, whoever your support network is really, really important to make sure that you can carve out that time that you need.
Great. All great advice. Thank you. We have two more questions. So let's start with Michael on this one. If you had to say the 3 hallmarks of your experience at Kelley, either the things that you remember, the things that have had the most impact on your career, what would those 3 things be?
Number 1 would be the Kelley Connect Week, where we met in person. Lifelong friendships were forged there. A lot of inside jokes that still remain to this day were made there. And then the resources that they make available to you. I was not a strong resume writer after leaving law enforcement, but they had so much for us to learn. I think now I'm pretty good at that. And then finding out the networking possibilities that Kelleys are everywhere. I'm talking at a gym in a hotel in Australia. I'm wearing one of my Kelley Connect Week shirts, and someone walks in, "Hey, I went to Kelley Direct." I'm walking around the airport, and people are like, "Oh, I went to Kelley," or "I went to IU." So it's fun. They're everywhere. The networking possibilities are endless.
Great, thank you. Kristen, what about you?
Yeah, I think that the biggest surprise for me was just how well I'm getting to know both faculty and students, despite not having met most people in person. So I think that the having faculty so accessible has been a huge win, and there are so many other opportunities to engage. We have a student council that I happen to be a member of. And that has really kind of helped me develop relationships with our deans and professors and things as I work to help to put on events for the university and things like that. So I think just being able to engage with so many people in a very meaningful way in a completely virtual program has been a really exciting aha moment for me.
Great. Thank you. And Andres, for you?
It's hard to narrow it down to just 3, but if I had to, I would say that number 1 would be the people, which lines up with both what Michael and Kristen said. Second one would be the resources. And then the third one would be everything that I learned in the classroom. Well, not just in the classroom and then outside the classroom through my classmates.
Great. Well, that was very succinct. Thank you. Okay, so our last question. We have a number of people watching this now. Many more will be watching it after. Folks who are thinking about an MBA in general, who are considering an online MBA. What would be your biggest piece of advice? Michael?
You're making a significant investment in terms of time and money and foregoing life experiences. So make sure that it's worth it, that you know what you want to do, where you want to take your career and your life in the future before you jump in and realize it may not be for you. And secondly, be authentic, be yourself. Others will adjust.
I like it. Andres?
It's a classic old saying, but I would say put everything into it that you want to get out of it, because there's different levels of engagement. You can be someone that just goes to, it's very difficult to just be someone that just goes to class, does the work and leaves. If you really take the time to engage, get to know your classmates, and not just do the work, but really just bring some of your workplace into the classroom, you're going to learn a lot more, and it'll be much more worthwhile when you graduate. And then you can say once you're finally done, it'll be that much more rewarding.
Right. Classic for a reason. So good advice. And Kristen?
Yeah, I would say that in addition to those great suggestions, I think just know your why. Why are you doing, why do you want an MBA? Why are you doing this? Really understand, why this is, important for you, because really owning that will help you make prioritize and help you, really accomplish all that you want to accomplish and engage and do all of these great things. So I think, really just, even before applying, make sure you know what you want to get out of it, and that will help you find the right school for you.
Great. Well, Michael, Andres, Kristen, thank you all very much for taking some time out of your, I know, busy schedules to join us and to share your experience and your insights with our viewers. So very much appreciate that. To those of you who are watching, if you're watching us live, we'll have another admissions panel coming up in just about 15 minutes. And if you're watching this on demand, there's plenty of other great alums and admissions folks to hear from. But thank you all again and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Bye.